All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Very good. We've learned after 3 days, so that's good. Well, thanks for coming. You know John Mayer doesn't like you when he makes you talk first thing on Saturday morning. So I need to mend my fences with him so I can speak at a better time next time. But thanks for coming. I'm going to try to wake you up. Coffee, anybody? Feel free to go out, come back, bring me a cup. I need it myself. Why are we talking about budgeting today and funding? Well, let's face it, there is a crisis. Look at the size of the steak yesterday. We didn't have enough money to buy a decent steak. I don't mean to be critical, but I was hungry after dinner. There you go. I've seen tapas that were bigger than that steak, but... All right. Let me tell you a little bit what I'm going to be talking about here. I think I'm going to talk about funding, primarily. We are facing difficult economic times. Everybody's cutting budgets, thinking about ways of doing, paying for technology in better ways, bringing additional revenue, technology fees, grants, donations, finding cheaper products or services, whatever we need to do. So the idea is to tell you a little bit how I see the picture of the entire IT funding, financial management, discuss sources of revenue and expenses, discuss how we can manage those better, discuss some of the unfunded mandates that we have, things that we have to pay for today that we never planned to pay for, and what is the planning impact of all of this? What is it that we can do in order to take advantage of whatever opportunities are there to still do our jobs? And hopefully, we'll be able to contribute to many of the recipes for success that you use at your institution. I'm sure that we've all been doing this job for years, so we know how to manage the budgets. But as things turn a little bit more complicated, we find more creative ways of doing things. Why? Why IT funding is complicated? Well, it's a nationwide economic problem, and what I'm showing you there is from the EduCost survey. There's a current issues survey from this organization of technology professionals in higher education that describes what is the most important, the things that keeps the IT managers up at night. And the number one issue this year is IT funding challenges. Even more than administrative systems ERP. Remember the PeopleSoft projects of 20, 30, 40, 60 million dollars? Well, now, when the bill gets to them, is when they're worried about IT funding challenges. And this is coincidental. Part of the survey also says that some of the things that CIOs and IT directors like to do at the university level, of course, number one is drinking beer like the students, but number two is work on the financial issues. Try to find money from the different departments to make the programs work. This is the bottom line in the survey. IT funding challenges tops the list of hot IT-related issues on campus. And the other one that is there that is very important is the security and identity management, the information security thing. Do you budget a large amount of money 3 years ago for information security on your in your law school? How many people here had an information security officer 4 years ago at the university level? How many have an information security officer today? And those people are not cheap. They cost a lot of money. What is happening? I think that pretty much what we're finding is that the real budget that we have money for in technology sometimes is being reduced. And it's being reduced not so much because they're cutting necessarily the amount of dollars that you see at the bottom line of the report, but because you have to do more things with the same money or with only a little bit more money. Let me give you an example. In the overall expense increases, how many people here bought a new copy of Microsoft Office every year before? How many people are doing that today? How many universities have signed the software assurance program with Microsoft that entitles you to have a new version every year? Well, guess what? Now you're paying for software every single year, as opposed to once every 2 or 3 years. If you look at the bottom line, you're paying more for the software. If you use network electronics like Cisco and many others, the cost of the maintenance contracts is going up really, really, really high. Why is that? Well, first, because there's only one company who can give you good service to maintain a Cisco router. What's the name of that company? So they can charge you whatever they want. And second, because with all the disaster recovery and planning and emergency, well, they know that you want 4-hour response time or 8 hours if you're willing to live with an angry mob at your door, and they're going to charge you dearly for that. So what we have to do in light of all these changes is simply to adjust our planning, to try to prioritize what are the projects that we do, what are the important things. Sure, the disaster recovery and business continuity are very important, but is the goal to be up and running in a separate location after there was a major disruption event in your city or your metropolitan area? Or can you do it the next week and still be in business? There's a difference in price to doing one or the other. What are the inflows of money that I see are most important here? Of course, your operational budget tends to be the most important one. Your own in the IT function, but also the operational budget of all the departments. You're not the only one buying technology in your law school. How many of you have responsibility for paying for the library catalog software out of the IT budget? Nobody. Yet it's a system that somehow you manage because they buy the parts, the interfaces, and everything else. So it's important to put all the budgets together and understand what is the total pool of money that you have to spend. And sometimes if you convince this department to give you part of their money and the other department and the other department, you can make a project happen by combining the resources of several departments. We have capital funding. That's terrific. If you get approval by the dean, a blank check to say we want a new classroom or we want a new building, that gives you flexibility. There are things that you can associate with those projects that you can pay for. So it's always good. For example, there are many people who at the end of the year discover that some of the other capital projects were cheaper than expected. What happens is that there's a pool of money left, and the dean will tell you, well, what can we do with this money? Is there anything in instructional technology that is good? And that's your chance to do that old classroom that you were not able to do 2 years ago. We also have revenue. How many people here generate revenue in the IT department? Some sort of revenue. All right, keep your hands up. How many people charge for printing? Well, there you are generating revenue. How many people charge for AV services? How many people charge for resale of technology services to the dorm rooms or to institutes or other departments? So those are sources of revenue, particularly printing. Sometimes you don't see a penny of the printing. It goes into somebody else's account, but this is a business you're generating. You're counting the copies with P counter or Uniprint or whatever it is that you're using. And you're charging students, between 5 and 10 cents a copy, for the most part. It doesn't cost 5 cents to print a piece of paper on a laser printer. It costs more like 1 cent or even less than that, once you add everything. So, yeah, true. Thank you, I appreciate it. There's a survey by the University of Richmond that tells you whether or not your prices are competitive. So the revenue is good, and the revenue can be used to pay for student computers. When students complain about the cost of printing, which they normally don't do, but if they complain, we explain to them that that revenue is used to buy new public computers, to buy better printers. We also encourage them to not print absolutely everything in the school. They can also print at home. They're really affordable printers. Donations. Well, these donations come in two kinds. One is controlled by your alumni and development office, by which they put you in touch with an alum that has an interest in technology, and then you explain to them, well, there's this new mood room that we'd like to do here. There's this cyber cafe that we're thinking about. And working with them, you can generate donations for your program, for projects that are important to you and to the school, and you can pay for them out of donations. The other thing is that many of the large technology companies will donate products for a variety of reasons. Let's say they're trying to introduce a new product in the market. The people who go first usually get a very good deal because they're looking for a few reference accounts that will start using that particular product. Now, there's a short window of opportunity, and it's a high-risk proposition, sometimes, depending on what is it that you're buying. If you're buying a system for cities compliance, that is something that needs to meet the immigration and naturalization requirements, you can get a pretty good deal if you go with one of the no-name companies. But what happens if that doesn't work and you lose the ability of admitting LLM students? The risk might be very high. there's an opportunity to get donations. Then there are grants. There are lots of educational grants. And normally the best way to go about this is to work with a faculty member. If you have a faculty member who's interested in a particular pedagogical or educational project, you can work with them. You can help them write a proposal. And they get money for technology that can be reused for other departments after the main project is done. That is a legitimate use of grant money. And finally, we all have all sort of university programs that try to, shape technology at the university level. And the way those programs work many times is that they give you matching funds if you open up your library computers to the rest of the community. Or, for example, they give you a site license to Microsoft Oracle, to the Oracle database system or things like that. Or they give you access to antivirus software. How many people here write on the antivirus software license of the main campus? Which makes sense because the cost at the university level is only marginally more than if you discount the law school campus. Many of these antivirus companies, tell me how many people you have, that's a flat license fee you pay. Untapped revenues. These are new creative sources of funding that you can find. And this is my favorite. The Nigerian government has funds allocated there. If you send them an email, they promise to send you $50 million, which you can use for your technology project. For a fee, I will be willing to broker the deal for you. What's happening with the expenses here? Well, salaries continue to grow unless yours is one of the unlucky state institutions where salaries were freezed. Chances are you're giving raises to the people, 1%, 2%, 4%. You also have people in your teams that have done very well. That, for example, you're moving from an help desk position to a web developer position, giving them a career choice. When you look at the total pool of salary money, that tends to grow. Even though right now you can hire more qualified people for a more reasonable salary than 2 or 3 years ago, still the good people cost money. A good network engineer, good web developer, anybody who knows anything about security, those people still command quite high salaries for what's academia. Maintenance contracts, as I mentioned, they go up. And not only they go up, but there were things that we did not have on maintenance contracts before. There were things that you were not expecting would fail. And even if they fail, it wasn't a big deal. You could replace them within a reasonable period of time. Now you have to have most of your servers on maintenance agreements, most of your network electronics, even your printers. These maintenance contracts allow you to understand how much money you're going to spend because they fix the equipment should anything go wrong. But it's money every year that it's away from the other things you can do. How many people have maintenance contracts for the servers? Some sort of support. Because what happens if your email system stops working? You are toast. So you need to have something working all the time. Connectivity. This might not affect many of you, only if you pay for your own connectivity. In our case, we remove a few miles from the main campus, so we sign contracts with fiber optic providers to have a fiber optic link from the law center to the main campus and connect to the routing core. Well, guess what? The cost of connectivity by itself is going down a little bit. There are better deals out there. There are miles of dark fiber that nobody's using, so companies will give you a pretty good deal. On the other hand, one connection is no longer enough. Because every now and then somebody will cut a fiber optic cable on M Street in the District of Washington, in the District of Columbia, and you'll be dead in the water for 4 hours, which is unacceptable. So what is it that you do? You pay for cheaper connectivity, but you have redundant connectivity. In the end, what happens? You're paying more for connectivity this year than you were paying the year before. Consulting. Consulting is great, and if you need any consulting help, which I think that all of us try to keep to a minimum because it's very expensive, and there are great consulting deals out there. If you are using a sophisticated email system like Sun One email system, then every time you do an upgrade, you need a little bit of consulting help. We don't tend to have top-notch Sun microsystems engineers working for our staff. We hire people to help us with the consulting work, and some of the consulting companies are giving you good deals, but still, they're very expensive. Hardware and software? Well, I see a mixed match here. On one hand, the price of the desktops keeps dropping down, which is very important. On the other hand, people want more toys. How many people have issued any of these PDAs to senior administrators or faculty members or anybody else, or even your own staff? Somehow you need to pay for that or get money to pay for that. And not only that, but some of these cell phones. How many people have university-sponsored cell phones? Well, once again, that might come out of a special budget, or you might be responsible for that, but there is hardware that you need to pay for. And believe it or not, if somebody else is paying for that, chances are this could eat away from your technology budget. I do some numbers. After September 11, we figured that senior administrators should have these cell phones with the radio by Nextel so that you could connect and everybody could be connected. But then the facilities people have them, the AB people, some of the technology people. In the end, we end up having about 100 mobile phones. Now, 100 mobile phones times $50, that's $5,000 a month. Times 12 months, that's $60,000 in your budget. And nobody had money in their budgets for cell phone service, so somebody has to pay for that. And then the university allocations. How many of you have heard recently that Central IT would like to collect more money from you? Well, lately, like every year for the last 10 years, I think so. No, it's true. It's difficult times. They're difficult times for them and difficult times for us. They're facing the same pressures, and they need to make up for the revenue to deliver services. Cost and revenue control. There are a number of services that you can charge for. As we mentioned, printing is a very good opportunity there to make up, create funds for public computing by students. How many people here charge for AV services? Wow. Are you making a lot of money out of AV services? How about you, Ken?
We're not really making any money out of it. Kind of like breaking even. In the sense that we don't take the money, services from outside the school want to use our room. Then we charge them on an hour basis. After hours, usually before we need to talk after hours. Now, we say a minimum of 4 hours.
And it makes sense. One of the unintended benefits of charging for AV services is the following. As people come to your law school to use the rooms, Barbary, institutes, and centers, and you ask them, do you want AV services? How much is this going to cost me? Nothing. Yes, I do want AV services. Please bring 12 technicians, 3 cameras, VCRs, videos, you name it, yeah, because I might need it, and please put it there. And yes, it has to be on weekends and after hours, and I expect everybody to be there and everything working. So quite honestly, we charge for AV services to other university departments, and we charge to outside groups who come, rent the rooms, maybe get a grant to have a conference in Washington, D.C. near the Capitol. And they come and we provide AV support and we make money out of that. And what are we using the money for that, the money that we make? Well, to pay salaries, to buy additional equipment, to balance the budget in the AV department. This works very well. We built our webcasting infrastructure 2-3 years ago, and I upfront the money that was not in the budget. But within 2 years, I made up all that money just from videotaping and streaming commencement ceremonies for every single school in the university, because nobody else had the robust infrastructure that we had, and everybody wanted to webcast commencement. So we figured that we could do it and charge them at cost, enough to amortize the investment and still do well for the university, be good citizens. Other things that you can get money from. For example, how many people here manage the residence dorms in which your students live? I'm the only one here. All right. How many people have students living in university dorms? All right. Well, this idea then is being used by somebody else, but it's the idea of reselling the phone service, high network connectivity, and cable TV. Many of us offer a package deal to students in the dorms. And these deals are heavily subsidized. In some places, students pay $40 a month for those three combined services. How much would you pay for that at home? For your local phone service, high-speed internet, we're talking an Ethernet port or a fast Ethernet port, and cable TV. 100, 150, 200, depending on the market. Students are paying $40. They're happy, but it doesn't cost you $40 to deliver that service because network connectivity costs are absorbed within the main campus, because cable TV gives you a wonderful deal for education institutions, and because phone services have dramatically been reduced. The price per minute for long distance, or even the flat fee for local service, there are some new entrants in the market that are charging you very little money. So once you bundle those services and deliver them to students, you're doing them a favor, you're generating money for the institution. The other one that is good is, participate in large purchasing agreements with reseller benefits. How many people are doing that here? Participating in large purchasing agreements with reseller benefits. Well, keep your hands up. How many people are recommending Dell computers to the students? See my point? All of you are doing this. All of you are doing this. And these manufacturers have incentives for you to recommend those laptops. However, depending on how the contract was negotiated at your institution, it might be that part of those benefits go directly to the law school or go indirectly. They are absorbed at main campus, some manufacturer incentive rebates and donations that are used in the areas that need the most help. Typically, any donations of equipment tend to go to the School of Arts and Sciences or the other schools that are not as wealthy or perceived as being as wealthy as the law school or the business school. But, Dell and IBM, they compete fiercely with each other. And when you recommend to your students that they buy laptops from one or the other manufacturer, these companies are very thankful for that. What is it we can do? What is the planning impact of all these wonderful issues? Well, the first thing you have to do, you have to prioritize. We've always had to do that, but now you have to be even more careful. There are some projects that cost an arm and a leg and could absorb most of your IT budget. If you think about, for example, changing the student information system at the university level, let's say you're using, like we are, a mainframe system and are concerned, should we go to the latest generation of SCT, or should we fight with Larry Ellison and try to get PeopleSoft for us? Those projects cost millions and millions of dollars. And here's what happens. You could be presented a bill up front that says the share of the law center is $2.5 million over the next 3 years. Or maybe they will not even present you a bill. Maybe they'll take the money from the services they're providing you and reduce the quality and the scope of those services and try to use part of the money to pay for the new ERP system. So it's important at the university level, at the law center level, to prioritize that. Some of the library projects can be really, really expensive. A new catalog system, the latest version of library digitization project, those things can be very expensive. It's important to strike a balance between having a common level of technology for everybody in your community and those really special, very expensive projects. Sometimes what you have to do is just delay certain projects. It's better, you don't have money right now. It's not that you're not going to do them. If you need to retrofit a classroom better, you just need to wait until a later date, maybe a year, maybe two, coinciding with an improvement in the economic conditions. Sometimes all you have to do is wait for a university wave. For example, I heard some colleagues of us here in the conference that said, yeah, we were thinking about wireless, but all of a sudden the company made an announcement that they're going to put wireless everywhere. So I don't have to pay anything for that. I don't have to invest my own money or resources in that. I just need to wait for them to put a wireless access point in my institution. Sure enough, at first they will probably not cover all the places I want and everything else. But being free is a pretty good deal. Sometimes this happens with e-commerce applications. On occasion, you need to develop your own e-commerce applications for admissions, for many other things. Sometimes, if you're willing to wait for the university to catch up, they can give you an e-commerce application that you really need. If you want to collect tuition from your students directly using e-commerce, you can build your own tool with financial interfaces and everything else. Or else, chances are that the university will do it sooner or later. They'll start accepting all the credit cards, and you don't have to worry about it. Think long term. I think that Gary Banks mentioned yesterday to me, how long have you been with UVA, Gary? 17 years. And he characterized that as, I'm there for the long run. And that means that if you are facing a difficult budget, probably what you want to do is try to determine when is the next time that you're going to be able to do certain projects. So that you don't have to say no, you have to say, in 3 years, in 5 years, we expect to be there. That sort of vision really helps in your community. Law professors tend to be even longer than 17 years in their institution. So some of them seem to be 100 years old and still going. So, and finally, it's very important to make that distinction between capital and operational costs. If you have capital funds available, who pays for example, who pays for all the computers in these podiums? Well, it could be a capital expenditure when you renovate in a room, or it could be an operational expenditure by which you replace them every 3 or 4 or 2 years, whatever your replacement cycle is. I think the important thing here is the word planning. And I'm a firm believer of strong planning and structured budget. Because if you have a structured budget process, at least you can show the administration, this is the baseline. This is what we have to spend no matter what. Without this, the institution will not operate. And these are the other projects that are more or less optional, that will help you achieve better instructional technology or better research efforts, or will keep the faculty happier or the students more satisfied with their education. But at least they know for the years to come how much money they need to invest and allocate to the IT function. Now, interestingly enough, it was just only 2 months ago that I was asked to put together a 30-year technology plan with financial implications for the institution. 30 years. So I thought to myself, well, first you're kidding, aren't you? I mean, you're doing this because I'm about to leave on a trip and you don't want me to have a good time. No, we're serious because we have the bond issues and we're trying to match the bonds with the long-term planning and everything. So I know what's going to happen in technology 30 years from now. And I'm still working here at the law school.
Did you plan on that with for hoverboards?
Well, and I started thinking, well, all right, let's think, how much would it take to make all my buildings Segway compliant? Because everybody's going to be riding on Segways. Now, in the end, I went for it and I applied the same formulas that I have. What are my formulas? For example, a PBX, a phone, very expensive phone system, you need to replace those every 10 years. And those cost an arm and a leg, much more than anything you can buy in technology, at least today. I have a 5-year replacement cycle for network electronics. I have a 4-year replacement cycle for computers. I have a 7-year replacement cycle for the big AV ticket items, such as broadcast cameras and things like that. So I just applied my formula. I made up the issue that every 10 years I will be renovating most of the IT offices because people would like us to deliver services in another way. I put together a 30-year plan. That is the best piece of fiction that I've written in a long time. But at least there's a plan there. You know there are things that need to be funded and are there. Just want to show you, I analyze my own budget a little bit and see, well, what's happening? What is it that is going up and what is going down so I can take remedial steps? I see operational funds that they keep growing, not as much as I would like them to grow, but they keep growing to support salaries for the better people that we need. I see capital funds going up in my case because of the new building construction that we have going on, great opportunity. I see more revenue from the AV department, from printing, from resale of these services. I see less donations, quite honestly, at least the ones that come to me. I'm not saying at the university level or at the law center level. I'm saying that last year it was much easier for me to get corporations to donate products in kind or to donate money than it is this year. I think that they see the bottom line, they might be recovering, and they're more interested in selling things than in building their relationship. Still, some of them do. And I see more grants, at least the ones we've gotten. Some of our faculty members, for whatever reason, have gotten used to the idea of getting more grants, and that is helping us a lot. I see less value in the university programs. I see the university cutting down some programs that were of use to me and are no longer offered because they're in a budget crunch. So they need to discontinue certain support services, certain software services, and things like that. On the expense issue, I see salaries increasing. Maintenance contracts much higher than before. Connectivity, as I mentioned, the price per minute on a phone call keeps going down. The price per megabyte on an internet connection keeps going down. But since you need more for disaster recovery, sometimes it's a wash or you end up spending a little bit more. Consulting services, that's going on because You can hire better people also, and if you hire better people, there are some areas where you don't need a consultant anymore, or you need a consultant for less hours than you needed them before. Hardware and software, I think that's increasing, once again, in spite of the drop in computer prices. How many people here are buying flat screens with every new computer? Well, I'm going to say I'm not. I'm not because I don't have the money to buy them, so I've gotten donations for all of the public computer areas. No, I don't have a single faculty or staff member with a flat panel monitor. What's going to happen? I'll probably use capital funds for the new buildings to buy all the computers with flat panel monitors for those new buildings, and then I'll use part of that money to retrofit and change the monitors for the old people. But that's the difference. What's the price of a computer with a flat panel monitor, more or less?
Let me tell you that if you have your university debt buying camera data and send them to companies like Dell, who deal in medical center that we can have take for it, you can get a Dell Optiflex 260 with 512 megabytes RAM and the optical drive we need, and a 17-inch flat panel for $1,500. The incremental price of the flat panel over no longer has come down in the last few years on 17-inch from 685 to 325 on that.
Which is good. In my case, the way I see it, facing increased cost in some areas, is that we say, well, what if we don't buy monitors with the new computers for a couple of years or so, and instead of paying $1,300, we pay $900 per system. I'm accelerating my cycle of the desktop, the power, and as long as the faculty members can be managed because they know this is coming, I can have a relatively happy life.
Also consider the wear and tear on your staff backs.
Yep.
Installing CRTs.
No, it's a great point, and the storage space requirements. When you install lots of computers, you need more storage space when you have the big monitors. And the other thing that I'm negotiating a deal with the CFO and with the facilities people. We've done the study, and those flat panel monitors use less energy than the big monitors. So there are savings there, and I want part of the money to pay for flat panel monitors.
But they also have disposal fees, oftentimes for CRTs.
I think it's a great point. They are supposed to last longer. They're environmentally friendly. I mean, there are many reasons to do them. It's just that in my case, I'm trying to align the stars so that I don't end up in a position where I cannot do my 4-year or 3-year replacement cycle because I've used too much money in flat panel monitors. So that's a little bit what I have. And then I'd like to mention to you once again that I discussed what I call the unfunded mandates. These are things that we have to do now that were not in the budget, are still probably not in the budget. Compliance. Every time I turn around, the guys in Congress have approved a new set of legislation that affects us. How many people here have wrestled with this year with HIPAA? If you had a medical center campus, you've been involved in HIPAA meetings. CVS compliance, the new INS system to track foreign students. Patriot Act, when they can come to your library and say, give me all the reading records for your students. Teach Act on distance learning and use of copyright materials in distance learning. How many of you have tried to track a student after receiving a nice notice from the Motion Picture Association of America? We're spending money with all these compliance issues, money and time and effort. And it's very taxing because we don't have a lot of resources, and still we need to give this the utmost importance. Financial aid regulations. There are a new set of financial aid regulations. We have to focus on them, go to the meetings, understand what the implications are, and everything else. Emergency planning. Well, as we mentioned, what happens if there is a disaster nearby, if all of a sudden you cannot get into your building? How many people here use Iron Mountain or some other service to store a backup copy of your tapes? And keep your hands up. How many people send your tapes to somewhere else? Maybe a colleague, maybe another department, maybe take them home. So these are things that you have to do now. Sometimes they cost money. Thinking about hot sites. Has any of you thought about the ability of putting your servers somewhere else should anything happen to your building? Now, I don't have money to pay for another facility where I'm going to be housing this. So what I have is the following. I have the colleagues at main campus a few miles away who said, sure, you can put servers here, we can put servers where you are. as a friendly agreement. I also have a friendly agreement with Ken Hirsch here that says in the worst case scenario, I'm going to drive down to Duke with my email server in the back, and I'm going to hook it up here on the Duke network. So, how many people, for example, I spend money because I have an emergency website with Verio, which is a web hosting company. I don't spend a lot of money. But just in case all of our servers are unavailable, and at least I can go to Verio and change the DNS entry, and immediately I have a copy, a replica of my website right there. Those are things that cost money. What other things are you doing for emergency planning that cost money? Anybody? Good. Well, I'm sure there are more. So. Generators. UPS for additional electricity. That's a very good point. Those you probably have more now than ever before, either small units or a big unit or something like that. Systems seem to be working all the time. Information security. How many people have spent money in information security products in the last year? Anything, VPNs, network management tools, additional antivirus software, and everything else. Firewall software, everything. So, and how many people have changed the work schedule of some of your team members or the work allocation to make sure that they're focused on information security? At least it's a priority for my network administrator to spend time patching every single server. We're talking about the operating system, the Internet Information Server, the email platform, the databases. It's a new thing coming out all the time. Information security related is spam, for example. How many people here are spending time thinking about spam? Everybody. How many people are spending money dealing with spam? Well, what are you doing, for example?
Well, actually, we're doing it through the main university. That's where all of our email funnels through. We have a product that we put out there to do antivirus and spam control, and then we also have antivirus on our phone.
Somebody else dealing with spam? Ken?
We bought a filter that our virus filter now includes spam stats.
Somebody else? I saw more hands before. People are spending money on spam. Jim? Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're all spending anywhere from 5 to 20% of everybody's staff time doing this.
No, that's a very good point, the faculty member who has been away from the planet for the last 2 years, and all of a sudden tells you, I've gotten a spam this morning. How is it possible? So, no. And it's important, some humorous situations there. For example, there was this Viagra spam that reached a number of faculty members. And one of the faculty members told me, Pablo, couldn't you block all the Viagra announcements here at the Law Center? Well, some of your colleagues might want to see those announcements. There's the issue of web services, e-commerce, and things like that, we have to deliver. Students are expecting every piece of information through a web application that they can do 24 hours a day. Sometimes you do it. Sometimes you're doing working with main campus. Sometimes you do it on your own, working with the library. What it is, you're building all those applications with web development, with, actually, for example, there's something we all spend a lot of money in information security. How many people buy SSL certificates from VeriSign? Almost everybody. And those cost either $400 or $900 a piece if you buy them individually. So that's a lot of money that we never had to pay for, and you pay for this every year. And then, as we mentioned before, the high availability, the redundant networks, the better processors, the computers that will have the dual power in case one of them fails, you have the other one. All these things are costing money. So I'm just curious. I'd like to open the floor a little bit more to hear from some people about what is it that they do at the institutions to manage all this budget and be creative about it. And I have a volunteer from Columbia University. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Jerry Myers. But I work exclusively for the IT department. And kind of the cheerleader, the bridge between When I came to Columbia about 3.5 years ago, our finance director had the perception that the IT department was this big money pit that he kept shoveling money into, and he was talking in terms of return on investment and just saw IT as a cost center and didn't see the value that we were returning to the other departments. And so what my director, Franz Marine in the back there, and I did was we basically blew up the budget. And every year we build our budget from scratch. And as Pablo mentioned, we split it up into very specific areas when we present it. We look at our operating costs. We look 12 to 18, ideally 24 months out where the basic operating costs are going. And we present an operating budget. Then we present a separate personnel budget and a separate project budget. And we've now added in the last year another section of mandated but not funded projects. And we present it as this is the bare minimum. You want to keep the department operating as is, you have to give us this number of dollars. And where we were successful is that some years our operating budget actually goes down, which pleases them very much. Some years it goes up, but we're not going to them every year and saying, give us more money, give us more money. We're giving concrete reasons behind when we ask for more money, and when we don't need it, we give it back. And we've created this trust situation where if we go there now and we say we need money, we don't have to go through the grilling that we used to have to go through to get the funding. It's tedious and it's a lot of planning, but as far as I know, I'm the only accountant working within an IT department in kind of this capacity, but it's been really productive because we built this trust with the finance side. They don't want to hear all the technical terms. I talk the financial terms with them, but when we need something, we generally get it.
Buy machines for $1,200, we end up paying for the $1,300 for 40 years, whereas with the 3-year lease, you can almost the same amount. So it's something that's worth looking into. Our main campus set up, I think it was actually UVA. They were the first set up UVA and do that on that. So I think it's a great suggestion. Many institutions are reducing
either within a lease or without a lease. Used to be 2-3 year replacement cycles, and it turns out that computers these days can seem to be able to last a little bit longer and still do what people want, at least until Microsoft releases the new version of the operating system and forces you to buy new computers for everybody. So, good suggestion. Sorry, Franz.
I just wanted to add a little bit on Jerry was mentioning that what we found was very helpful was to sort of blow up the myth that IT is a cost center. And as you bring in new technologies, there is some efficiency that we put back into the organization, but it doesn't necessarily show up in the IT department. So one way is to possibly get maybe some kind of charge back from the other departments to see how that works, or put the in Jerry's case, in the position of looking at all technology purchases, just to see if it makes sense and it can fit into the overall plan. So that way, maybe something does not get a tool, and it cuts on a lot of frivolous spending, where somebody would like to have a just cool mouse that does something, but it really doesn't add a lot of
How many people here need to approve? That's a very good point, friends. How many people here need to approve the technology acquisitions by all the departments? Which is the way it should be. Those purchase orders should have two signatures. One of them being the IT person to make sure everything plays together and works nicely. And the one should be the CFO if there's a lot of money because they need to approve the big expenditures. Without that, as Franz mentioned, somebody can buy a database that is not good or bells and whistles and computers that are hard to support and are not adding anything to the organization. I saw some hands up before.
Participate in the decision making, but I have to say I wasn't real pleased with how they took the input from the academic departments. They really were more concerned about the business they were able to perform rather than the technology aspect of the decision. They signed a sole vendor arrangement with Gateway. Now my hands are tied. I cannot buy anything other than Gateway desktops. And there's very little we can do for competitive situations. We make some exceptions to it. There's something that Dell is providing, for instance, that Gateway doesn't have a competitive product for us. But it's not a comfortable position to be in. One thing I will say is the same configuration 10-day for the Dell. We're getting that and an 18-inch flat panel for $11.50. So I mean, it has given us some stable. Triple for that in the long run. I'm very concerned about it. It sounds quite adapting the language in the NRA. My bill away. I know my cold day. I guess I'm just, maybe it's a warning. I think this is something that a lot of purchasing offices are looking at, and they're going across the board. They're changing all of our shippers, the way we buy paper, business supplies. Do you have a central campus CIO? Yes. He's stepped back. He's involved in a massive administrative system. And he would not take over that if you have ever saying that's over 100%. That's a real application. And I did fight him on that, but he wouldn't get involved.
They don't have a specific technology purchasing person in central campus. This is a huge debate. I was in a project management workshop, and an IT person and a procurement person got into a huge fight over the class. And I'm kind of middle ground in that.
Our technology office rolled over. Can you
round up your departmental and professional school colleagues around the university and bring some pressure to bear when the contract expires?
2 years from now?
I realize it's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've already paid some political price for the pressure I put on in the first place. So it's not a comfortable situation.
It's a territorial thing. The best case scenario is where they come to the technology people first, and they say, what are the products? Give us 3 or 4 or 5 choices. And then you send the procurement people out to negotiate the contract. Incidentally, I think we should all compare notes on the prices that Dell is giving different universities. We're in the middle of renegotiating our contract with Dell right now, and it seems like
Except, let me alert you, many of these companies that are giving you these wonderful deals, because nobody pays full price on anything in academia. I mean, that's against our religion here.
There would be any benefit, but perhaps bringing this is how they're doing it, several dozen of other schools, much better light fees.
I'm going.
I'm University of Florida. I've been in sort of a legal technology consulting capacity for about 15 years. And in February, I kind of moved over. Even though I've been at the law school for 5 years, they've asked me to sort of take over all the technology services and merge all groups together. So I'm in this process of developing a technology budget, which the law school has never had. It's almost like at the end of the year, they said, here's how much money we've got, buy what you need. Obviously, it's not enough.
Yeah. Let me share something about the technology plan in the CALI Journal for Law School Computing that published a whopping 1 or 2 issues. I wrote an article on preparing a strategic plan for technology, and that's still on the CALI website. It's a good reading material and has links that take you to plans by different schools and institutions. It's a good starting point.
It seems to me a lot of the time, the conflicts we have at our law schools in the way of IT can be traced back to differences in understanding of the mission of the main campus of the law school. And this particularly comes to go ahead, I think, with budgeting. And as we were having this conversation, I got to thinking, the American Association of Law Libraries, they had a similar problem many years ago, particularly the court and county law libraries. And what the solution was, and I think they did make some hay with this, is they started to bring the problem with judges not fully understanding the funding structure for the county law libraries. So we started to bring the judges to conventions and hold special programs that would sort of bring these two groups together. And it occurs to me that we might want to consider an expansion of CALI or a special CALI event maybe in a couple of years where we try to make a stab at bringing in central campus computing people so that they can start to more fully understand how our missions really are different. And there's no reason to be competitive or fighting about all this all the time. And maybe there'll be a more common ground kind of growth thing. Because I tell you, having been here for 10 years with CALI, this is the same issue. And I'm not good at it either. I'm constantly finding myself at mission odds with my own main campus. I mean, it's just a no-win situation. So I guess I want to sort of urge that we have some kind of meeting of the minds program at one point.
First thing they will do is they will charge it on your budget.
Right. I saw some hands at the back.
Can we do a show of hands on people how long your average life in laptops? How many people have a laptop requirement for students?
Laptop requirement for students? Who has a 3-year life for laptops? 4-year?
I assume everybody's now giving all laptops over to faculty.
I'm not. How many people are giving laptops to all the faculty members?
From their enrichment funds, they'll pay the difference between the desktop and the laptop.
How much is it?
Depends on what the faculty wants. Right, it's probably around $500 to $700.
I think for us, when we were doing it 3 year, it used to be about $500 or $600 per year over the term of the lease. Now it's come down a lot. I think it's more like $300. I wish I could filter through all laptops a little bit more because they definitely have to have some more tech savvy in order to operate them.
If our faculty members get laptops, it comes out of their budget. And you'd be amazed at how the price comes down compared to something out of their budget. But they think IT is picking up the cost. They $3,000 models, and I need this, and yes, the DVD rewritable is necessary. And actually, this came out of our finance director. Laptops get charged to faculty members and council. All of a sudden, they need a lot less.
But how could you justify that argument? Because they have the right for one computer. So
Each IT department pays for a PC.
yeah, so if they say I don't want a PC, just give me a laptop, I'll make up the difference.
Should they go for it?
Yeah, they are willing to pay the difference. They have the
Uh,
I face the same situation and they're getting the difference from their own.
Actually, our team, it's changing now, but our team hasn't been big on faculty having laptops because he wants them there. He doesn't want them working from home.
Right, Ben?
I was wondering how many people are actually giving their faculty the option to replace their desktop with a laptop? Because I wasn't clear whether we were talking about, PC.
Well, no, I should say, at CALI University, we didn't give our faculty a choice. We just give them laptops. They get document stations, a standard document station, and then they use their individual accounts. We even have centralized printing. If they want a printer, a separate printer, they pay extra for that out of their individual. And if they want a document station for home, they have to pay for that out of their individual.
1 second. Sorry, go ahead.
It's the way we designed our program a little differently. Like
University of Washington, I saw the hand up a long time ago. Sorry.
Yeah, this is back in the Dilbert pricing discussion. I'm wondering how people that here logins, Dilbert your logins, how many remember their password? And do a little test of what the different contract prices are from the basic standard. I wonder if we could write this something basic on the board like Optiflex DX260 or something, 17-inch flat panel, 4800.
Well, I was trying to make the contact before. Make sure you review your purchasing contracts, because these companies that are giving you things at discounted prices sometimes have a clause that says you cannot discuss the pricing. So I would encourage you to read the contract in your campus before engaging into this conversation. So I know I do. In most of my contracts, they ask me not to disclose prices. So all I can tell you is that we get a very good deal, but so does everybody else. So.
Possibly, send that out to the tech person. That,
Yeah, there's no shame in tech things.
I'm going back to the comment earlier about having some communication with the central computing organizations on campuses. This is just a comment, really, that I'm from Indiana University in Indianapolis, and we have a central computing, we call it CTSC group, and we meet once a month, and it's all the departments on campus, technology people, plus the central university computing people, plus the purchasing people. So we have this meeting every month, and it really has developed a great rapport between the people who need purchasing and purchasing. So, we've done some pretty good things with that group, and I think I would encourage any university to develop that kind of a group, because it's been really great for our university.
I'm from UNC, and I guess two things. The campus has one of those nice deals with IBM, and they have 2 models of desktops and 2 models of laptops that they promote. The prices are not quite as good as we could get individually, and we're not required. It's politically healthy to go and buy them from the university, and they do give a better service agreement. And although price may not be quite as low, realistically, universities making money on them. So the price is higher in terms of our budget, but it is not higher in terms of, the total funds. Yeah. And back on the laptop issue, what we do is we give them a desktop. If they want a laptop, they do have professional funds, and they can buy them out of that. We'll order them for them. We'll set them up. In fact, if they want to buy it out of their personal funds, we'll order it for it and set them up. However, the fun part is that they've all made this horrible discovery in the past year that when they use their professional development funds, or if they use grant funds, those laptops belong to the university. There have been a few arguments about that.
Right. Well, we need to close, so 2 more comments. Ben, first, please.
I'm just worried about this desktop plus laptop plus PDA thing, where it seems as though even though we're approving the technology purchases, and we have some control over that sort of thing, this proliferation of gear to support that I did not do a good job of planning for, to be honest. And all of a sudden, we have laptops plus a desktop plus perhaps a PDA support. The support requirements is a challenge. It's something we need to spend more time focusing on.
According to the Gartner Group, the annual cost for supporting a PC is anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500. Just the support, not the hardware, not the software, anything. Just have the people there and the training and the technicians and everything else. Multiply by the number of systems in your institution, and then add a factor for the other device. You had a comment?
Back in the laptop issue at the University of Maryland School of Law, when we built our new building, we had to make a decision. Do we supply everybody with desktop, and we give them laptops, docking stations? So we polled our faculty, and we found that it was some really didn't want a laptop, and some were very happy with having a desktop. So we said, okay, we'll go with the plan that we attended with before, and we will go ahead and put traditional desktop on the desk. And then the dean had said in the faculty meeting, senior staff members that go away to conferences and such, that don't use a laptop every day, but they're going to some place and they need this mobility enough, they get the opportunity. So we have found that in this particular situation, unique to us probably, we have been able to appease everybody with the most cost-effective means.
Sounds like a creative and affordable approach to go about that. So.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about it is that we have been able to buy exactly what it is that would cost us less than support.
All right. I need.
Not at all.
Right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I'm thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause because you made it happen today with your insightful comments and everything else. So thank you very much. All right.